around him a little bit.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something in a minute which you will enjoy. Okay, you all right, Michelle?
Yes.
Okay. But you were saying that he sounds like an honest man to you.
Yeah. From what I understand, I mean, look, a guy's out there, and he's 47 years old, and he's listening to this case. And granted, with Ennis's the tragedy, you know, it could hit a person in the heart, but that doesn't mean that a person has to come forward and say that.
He's a father and a grandfather.
Grandfather, father. I mean, he's got his life obviously now. Why make himself a celebrity? And certainly he has not contacted me to say, let's talk, you know, I'd like to do you a favor, big fella, if it's all right with you. And perhaps this man, something keys a human being. And sometimes when it's that good, people don't believe it. Because and people don't believe it, I think, because they don't think they have that part in them, which they do, but they just don't, they've never been challenged in that position
You
before.
believe it?
Oh, of course I do. I've got to believe him. I mean, there's 100% of me that says, yeah, he's the father. Why? Because I don't want to be the father of the person, you know. And then there's another part that says, yes, he's the father because I've never believed her story to me. And I've always said that. I've always said that when talking to this young girl. I've always said it. And I've said it a great deal. A part of it is because I don't want to believe it, but the other thing is also that I don't believe it. And in helping her, I've seen weaknesses in the family where they needed help. And I think that if those three women, the grandmother, the mother, and the daughter, if they weighed and measured every man that came into their lives, that they would have to say in those 20 years that Bill Cosby, forget the money, philosophically, in terms of being there for them when he thought what they said was true, that he was in fact, and if they weigh and measure his words about education, about pulling themselves up and then laying the bread out so it could happen, which didn't happen. The money was there.
I want to bring this around to understand it. Did I understand you to say, or did I understand incorrectly, that there was a time you thought you might have been the father?
No. Here's the point. Woman comes to you and she says, you're the father of my child. You say, no, I'm not. Why do you say no? Well, you say no because, first of all, you didn't tell me. And the child is 2 years old now. There was no call. Okay, that's your call. You can say that. But now I've got reason to think. Okay, so maybe some other things happened. But you never said to me, when I asked you, why did you take this amount of time to let me know?
Do you now regret having put out some money for this young woman and her child?
No, because at the time that I put the money out, it looked like they understood, whether it was the child or the mother, that they understood what the money was for, how it should be used, and they said they were going to do it. What do I regret? It's academic. I regret the thought and then the execution of the rendezvous.
this happened in the 1970s. Now we're in the 1990s. As I understand it, scientifically, there are ways to prove conclusively if you are not the father. It may not be a way to prove conclusively that you are the father. I understand it with DNA, you can determine conclusively whether one is the father or not. Has any DNA test been run? Do you plan to have any DNA test run? Or does anybody plan to have such a test?
No, I don't think it's necessary. I think that a man who's come forward, not paying, not being paid, who could have not answered, but said, I'm not the father. I mean, I think a guy could have said that. And I think he would have had compliance.
Instead, he said, I am the father.
There are voices that say, he is the father. This fellow, without being paid or offered money, without talking to me, came forward and said, I am the father. If he has been away and tried to make contact, and if he has his own, what I understand is that he's a truck driver. If he has done this, and he has said, I'm willing to take the test. I'm willing to take a blood test. I'm saying you gotta weigh and measure. Unless Bill Cosby paid, unless Bill Cosby offered, unless Bill Cosby through some secret we don't know.
Or somebody doing that to help Bill Cosby even if he didn't know.
There's nobody on the face of this earth that I know of yet. When I first heard about it, I said, thank you. And then I started thinking, it's got to be a nut. It's got to be some nut who wants his time on TV, somebody who says, hey man, I'm going to play a cruel trick on Bill Cosby. But you see, let's watch this carefully. There's a marriage license. I mean, there's a birth certificate. There's a name on it. The two live together or with time together. Once again, she's not Caucasian, she's African American, mixed with Indian or whatever, which we consider African American. And the only thing I can figure, Dan, is that why she didn't tell me for that period of time was that while she was with Mr. Jackson, she went up, had a rendezvous with somebody, come back and tell a guy that you're living with, sleeping with, or it is your boyfriend, that you're pregnant, but it is in fact another man's. I mean, I'm just figuring she's afraid she's going to be beaten up or whatever, maybe he's holding something, et cetera, et cetera. That's the one way I can figure why she didn't say anything. But then when it's my turn in the barrel, and I say to her, why didn't you tell me this? Wouldn't that be a sympathetic story, I mean, for the guy listening to say, because the man I was living with and I was trying to protect...
But nobody said that.
I'm talking about when she talked to me.
You know, we've already talked about this much longer than I have any real interest in talking about it. But when this story hit, you must have been angry about it.
No, I'm the one that told my lawyer, go ahead. I'd had enough of this, man. And then...
You mean enough of putting the squeeze on you?
Well, it wasn't even... It's the fact that for me, the energy put out, trying to get them, for me, and what I've tried to do, while still saying, I'm not your father, I will be your father image, but I'm not your father. Whether it's true or not, I'm saying that to her. The mother keeps saying, I didn't get a happy ending. In school, out of school, in school, out of school, and okay, try this, try that, and working the gears. I don't have a happy story.
So you just finally said, look, I'm going to get this out in the open, get the pressure off myself, burst this bubble.
I put an offer on the table. The offer requires that you work your brain. The offer requires that you use your intelligence. The offer also requires that you get X number of dollars and you have to work. The offer does not cover your boyfriend can live with you. The offer does not cover and you will drive an expensive automobile. There are millions of kids in the United States of America who would love someone to say, I'll pay your way through USC, Stanford, any school that you can get into. You can study whatever you want. I'll pay your way and give you $200 a week. Something snapped. And when it snapped, I realized then that it's a point of no return. In order for these people to keep their mouths shut about what they say is, this is Bill Cosby's daughter, I then realized that, I mean, they were telling everybody. I mean, why am I then paying them this sort of amount of money, offering to help, trying to get them, when in turn, it's getting bigger and bigger. And who do I know? I mean, when you look at, you read the trades in Los Angeles, and the Enquirer is in Variety saying, call this number if you have anything on anybody. And these two are going around, you know, making contact with people and saying, well, you know, this is Bill Cosby's daughter. I am Bill Cosby's daughter.
So you just wanted to get it out in front and deal with it.
It's got to come out front because it's already out there. How many people in the hotel? How many people outside? How many people over the way? How many before it gets to the point where, okay, so now we have an offer. And okay, something comes back. Okay, so you pay that. You pay $40 million. Now comes a guy, and the guy says, listen, I wasn't with them, but, you know, I know. And he just keeps going. I don't know these people.
You know most people don't care one way or another.
It isn't that I don't care. I just want people to know that as an entertainer, I want to be known as a fellow who not only was he honest, but he took the hit himself. And you're not going to find me running around talking about, well, you know, there are people over here and somebody did that. No, listen, how many entertainers do you know of? You can't go on the road without doing, that's not it, man. It was my choice. And I consider myself, and I've been told that I'm a very intelligent person. And I remember sitting at the table with the mother of a young lady I had seen, but I had since cut off, and I brought them to dinner to celebrate the fact that I no longer. And the mother said, I'm very happy to sit at this dinner. She said, I always knew you had more sense than that.
Let me switch gears, Bill, because you've been more than generous with your time. 3 questions, in no particular order. 1, what question have I not asked you that I should have asked you?
You're in good shape. I think you're in very, very good shape.
What is the single most important thing you want people to know about Bill Cosby and his family during this time?
That memory where we were all laughing, that memory where when you see the smile on this young man's face and the fact that he has a sense of humor, and we've got to get back to that because I think that that's my greatest gift. And I know that it isn't something that should be taken away, nor the laughter that I can give the people, because I think if we don't have that with me, I think we all sort of wither.
I was intrigued, riveted, really, to read what Innes had written that the New York Times published on the op-ed page. A number of things jumped off the page at me, but one where he said, the test of a healer is how well he can heal. To paraphrase.
Yeah.
What can I do? What can we do? What can anybody in the country do to help heal for you, for Camille, for the family? It has to be a deep and abiding wound.
At this particular point in our interview, I think I've earned the right to say that, to answer that question. Be whatever it is, be whatever a person thinks. Dignity. We lost some of that. This United States of America with its strength. But I think that the acceptance of the swagger, the acceptance of the look, the acceptance of self-deprecation and foul wind coming from oneself at another, and it is all right. I mean, it happened on this television series where I played this character who was doing things to people, and I kept arguing, but he can't do that. This character can't do that, man. And it's true that we are on the way to not a loss of dignity, but a real box it and shove it. And I think it comes from our being lost at trying to solve the problems of our loss of control, whether it be politics, money, Wall Street, etc. But if you lose your dignity, if you lose the word of teaching dignity to your son, respect dignity, there's no strength. You can't have strength. That's what Mandela had all through his prison. I don't know the man. I met him twice, but I can see it. Dignity. And you can't buy it. You can't buy it. I think that's also another mistake. We liken it to class. There once was a man who had no class, so he tried to buy some. There once was a man who had no dignity, so he tried to buy some. You can't buy it in a leather jacket. You can't put a leather jacket on. And I'm sure there's some fairy tale or folk tale about a man who buys something or whatever. You can't buy it in a pair of sneakers. You can't. I was always amazed at gang members walking around with Oakland Raider jackets, and somehow they missed underneath it said a commitment to excellence. On the 11 o'clock news, to what? A commitment to excellence of what? I was an excellent crook. Well, you weren't. You got caught. I'm sorry. There are very few happy stories if you have no dignity. Dignity, male, female, child. We've got to teach it. We've got to get it back, and it's just resounding. I mean, the story of David and the coat. And you get a coat, but you have to earn it. And when you earn it and put it on, that's your coat. And you wear it differently. For instance, if I say, if I dress pants down here, and this shirt out and the thing, and leave the thing untied, okay, that's a certain image. But there's a walk that goes with that. So, there's a certain talk that goes with it, and I have to stand, and the hat backwards, and that's it.
Called attitude.
Yeah. Now, if I take that same kid, and I say, okay, take him in there, and I would put on a blue suit, tie, shirt, button up, haircut, shirt tucked in. And I was telling this to Alvin Poussin. Now, we were joking, so this is not a big thing. I said, then what do you have? He said, the same kid who just committed murder at the trial. No. But what you have then is that kid, he won't stand like that in the suit with the tie. If I put on the Marine Corps uniform with bars of an officer, he can't walk like this. The uniform makes something. So that in a form of dignity, there's a uniform that fits this as well as the way you dress. I'm not saying that a kid like this and so on is not studying, but still there's something that he's going to do that this character was a dignity, and we've got to get to that. We've got to read it. A guy said to me, one of these, testing for drugs. The parent can now have that box. You know what my answer is? You're damn right. Why? Because this is not 1964. This is 1997. And damn it, the drugs are out there. They're sitting right where there's more guns out there. And if we have the dignity, so do you say to your child, hey man, you got to believe me when I tell you that I believe you and I can trust you. Therefore, we have no problem. Just drop this in every once in a while and do the thing and go ahead. And the kid will have no problem with that.
Occurs to me, I should have asked you this before. I've had a number of people say to me, I hope this case doesn't get deeply wrapped up in racial tension. Is there any fear in your mind that could happen, is happening?
No, it's not going to happen, because we're talking about dignity. I don't want somebody jumping out in the street. If they say it's a white man, I don't want somebody jumping out in the street and here's coming home some white person who has nothing to do with anything. I mean, that's the same thing you do the guy that shot Ennis. Ennis is not asking, or Ennis's parents are not asking for you to bring us the wrong duck. You don't go out and beat people up, and I refuse to accept violence. I refuse to accept verbal yelling and name calling. America's had enough of that.
If it turns out that the person your wife wants caught and brought to justice so badly, you do, we all do, turns out to be white, that's got the potential for causing a lot of trouble.
But you know what, man? It'll never happen in my eyes, because they'll have to kill me. Not over my son's death. You're not going to play this bullshit game. No, sir. And it is bullshit. There's no other word for it. No other word for it. It's bullshit. You don't jump up in the name of whatever your problem is in the United States of America, be it real or not real. Talking about dignity.
What you describe as bull bleep is to have one act of violence seen as an indictment of a whole group of people who had nothing to do with it.
It's got to be. Even if it's a group. Let's say this guy belonged to a group, man, and they saw a young fella, young black man, and they said, "Where do you get this car from, man?" It's my father's car. Really? Well, so I go up and say to the lady, "Listen, you better," and she goes, and the guy said, "You got a lot of money. Huh? Where you get these dealing drugs?" And boom, innocence gone. Let's say it's a group. Then I want the people that night who did it. Was the driver and his friend watching while he did it? Now, if they belong to the whatever, that's up to within the law. It's not going to bring Ennis back. He was taken away. And I'm sure that whoever did that. Now, do we want to go to the minds that turned the kid into that, so to speak?
You said two things that interest me. We're near the end here. I think you were speaking hypothetically. Is there any indication that there was more than one person? You said the driver.
No, I'm just saying that, for instance, if there's a group, you got a driver, you got a guy watching, and they say, "Oh, look, this fella has a gun."
And the other thing you said, that if these people had said to the woman who came up to help,
yeah,
you said, "You better move on."
Yeah.
That was, you were speaking hypothetically, or there's some indication?
But from what I understand, that she was frightened. She was there, she was frightened, and she drove away and then came back.
Because somebody or somebodies came up to the window of her car.
But, you know, a guy comes up and he says, "Well, what are you talking to this, so forth and so on? And you get out of here." I mean, obviously they had to say something like that because she's gone. She can't, as Arthur Ashe said, yeah, he's fast, but he can't outrun a bullet. You know.
Bill, you've been so generous of your time and so giving of yourself.
I have to get another tape.
We're at the end.
Well,